Every year I tell myself I'm going to keep holiday gifting simple, and I do not. This year I made cookie boxes with 5 different cookies, 4 pairs of sailor slippers, and I knit 2 whole sweaters. This felt doable at the time, but in retrospect, it was a hectic mess. Holy moly, was that a lot of stitches. But I keep making handmade gifts because they're the type of gift I love to give. There's something special knowing the time that went into them. They're personal and there's a lot of intention behind them, even if the process is a little chaotic at times. Making gifts allows me to show people how much I appreciate them by showing them how much love I pour into them. Okay, that was a little bit cheesy. It's also fun to try and think about what people would appreciate me making them. Making gifts also really helps direct my crafting journeys, but I am very much ready to get back into my own selfish knitting. I filmed a lot of the process of me knitting, baking, and I wanted just to take you along with it. Let's go and run through what all I made this season. I'll go over what I made, what worked, what didn't work, and what I learned from all my handmade gifts this year. So let's start with the cookie boxes. For the cookie boxes, I knew I wanted a lot of color, texture, and flavors, all inspired by the holidays, of course. I didn't want each cookie to look or taste the same. I wanted each box to be especially festive and tasty. I tried my best to balance something warm and cozy, something chocolatey, something pepperminty for the holidays, something fun and colorful, and something that's just a guaranteed crowd pleaser. I ended up making 5 baked treats over 2 days, which was honestly the only way I could pull all of this off, considering I didn't want anything to go stale for the cookies and I wanted them to be especially fresh. The first cookie I want to talk about is snickerdoodles. This was my warm, cozy classic cookie. There's something just super warm and special about a cinnamon and sugar type of cookie. It feels very holiday without being super overpowering. Snickerdoodles are also a really nice balance in the box since a lot of the other goods are very chocolatey based. These cookies were actually one of the more simple cookies to make. There wasn't much to it, just mixing, baking, rolling, and I dusted them in cinnamon and sugar. So the basic process with making a snickerdoodle cookie is to blend up some butter, flour, and some of the other goodies found in snickerdoodles, including one really niche ingredient to find, cream of tartar. I was really worried when I was at the store that they were all out, but it was just all in the holiday section because I think a lot of other people were making snickerdoodles.
And don't get me started on trying to find cream of tartar for the snickerdoodles. That was nearly impossible. I spent like 10 minutes in the bakery aisle or the spice aisle just looking for it. Turns out it was in the center aisle since it's a common holiday spice. So I did find it, and I got a little nervous that I have to figure out something else for how to make it, but I did come across it. So all is well. I was hoping I could find some red and green, like powdery sprinkles to use for the snickerdoodles, but I couldn't find any, so I'll just have to make do. I'll probably cover them with like sugar and cinnamon as one typically does.
So I happened to find it. So once you mix it all up, you roll them into balls and then roll them in cinnamon sugar mixture and then just bake them. So they're a really simple cookie to make. The one difficult part with snickerdoodles is they tend to be a bit sticky when you go to put them into cookie scoops. However, using water can really help not have them stick as much to your hands. They smelled incredible in the oven, which is always a good sign. This overall is a super comforting cookie, and if you're just looking for a simple addition to a cookie box or what's something comforting and warm, I would highly suggest adding snickerdoodle to your repertoire. It's always a safe choice. This one was my favorite by far. I made brown butter chocolate chip cookies and I added some holiday M&Ms to keep things a bit festive. I actually first tried using brown butter in a chocolate chip cookie recipe when I was cooking a chocolate chip recipe from the Stardew Valley cookbook, and I was obsessed with it when I first made it.
My kitchen currently smells like brown butter because I was making it for the chocolate chip and M&M cookies, and it is such a decadent smell. It's almost like a roasted nut smell, but it is so warm and it just smells like winter.
It made my whole kitchen smell very nutty and warm, and I knew from then on if I was making chocolate chip cookies, I would be adding brown butter. The magic with brown butter is that it's super simple to incorporate. You just heat up a small pot on the stove, throw in your butter, and you just mix it around continuously for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then once that's done, you need to let it cool because when you add in the eggs, it could possibly scramble when you add them all in.
The butter and sugar just finished mixing on my stand mixer, but I'm gonna wait a few minutes before I add in the eggs as I don't want them to scramble in my mixture. I don't think anyone really wants any scrambled egg taste in their cookies. Me, I might. Honestly, a cookie with like eggs is basically like the egg bites from Starbucks. Am I right? It's basically like an egg muffin. I'll totally take that any day, all day, every day. Add some cottage cheese, chef's kiss.
So as I mentioned, the brown butter adds a deeper, nuttier taste, and it gives it a really sophisticated taste. I think it really rounds out the whole flavor profile of the cookie, and I highly suggest it. And adding the holiday M&Ms gave it that final touch that I really wanted in the cookies. So they were red and green, so it gave it that holiday fun splash, but also a fun candy that a lot of people love. As myself, I love M&Ms.
It was a hassle trying to find them at the store, but I assure you I did, and I got 3 boxes of them once I found them.
Fun fact with M&Ms, they are actually not supposed to melt in your hands because they were used during wartime, so they didn't want to melt when they were sent out in packages. If I had to remake one cookie from my boxes, it would definitely be this one because I gobbled them up. They were delicious. They were soft, tasteful, and honestly, I kept a few for myself just to taste test, if you catch my drift. Next up is my hot chocolate cocoa peppermint cookies. And they were definitely the holiday flavor cookie of the box. These were the first cookies I made when beginning the boxes because they required an additional step. So first I made the cookies and then I dipped them in white chocolate and coated them with crushed peppermints.
Also, I used a strainer to get out the shards from my peppermints when I was cracking the peppermint canes into a dust. And look at my sink right now. This is actually scary.
They're rich, chocolatey, almost like a brownie texture with a little bit of peppermint incorporated into the batter. But what really made them stand out was that white chocolate that I coated on the outside with the peppermint. They look absolutely stunning. And that part was honestly a happy accident because I had some leftover white chocolate that I was going to use for another cookie, and I wanted to add a little jazz to them to make them look more fun. Now let's talk about Oreo balls. So I've been making these for years since I was little, and they are super easy to whip up. Oreo balls are crushed up Oreos with cream cheese and like a ball truffle shape, and then you dip them in chocolate in the end. So for this cookie, I actually had to do it twice because I didn't coat it in chocolate how I wanted to the first time around. It looked a bit ugly in my opinion, and when I'm gifting cookies, I want them to look beautiful. So I ended up doing it twice. I really enjoy making these because of how simple they are. So all I did is I take a pack of Oreos, crush them up, or whip them up in my stand mixer, throw in 8 ounces of cream cheese. I ball them out into the same size with a cookie scoop, freeze them, and then I dip them in coated chocolate. And they always turn out delicious, and everyone is obsessed with them. But my first batch of chocolate dipping did not go well. They looked a little ugly. And I also had this little accident where I broke a spatula over it. Here are the bloopers behind the scene when that happened. The chocolate just really wasn't cooperating with me when I first made it, so I just remade a second batch since it was super easy to whip up. And that's always been my theme with handmade gifts is sometimes when it doesn't work out for a gift, you have to take out the extra time to remake it and make it with extra love. The second batch I actually did coat it with white chocolate because it hardens better in my opinion. And I did a different approach to it. So I first dipped the bottom in the chocolate so it'd have a strong base, froze that for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I took it back out and I poked the end with a toothpick and I dipped it in the chocolate and it turned out way better compared to the first time. The first time I did a method where I just put the melted chocolate in a bag and I put the Oreo balls on a cookie sheet with the cooling tray under it and I coated them with a bag, but it didn't turn out even. There was none on the bottom, which I really didn't like. So I'm happy with how I did the second version. And I added a little bit of extra pizzazz to it by sprinkling it with the extra chocolate on the end. I also really wanted to make these cookies because they're just a great filler in the box, and I wanted something that everyone likes and can help really fill the box and make it feel special. The last simple treat I made were my M&M Hershey Kisses, and they are so cute. I have also made these for as long as I can remember because of how simple they are to make. They're super festive and they really help fill up the crevices in the cookie boxes because when you make a cookie box, you don't just want to do cookies. You want it to be a variety of different textures and flavors. So this was a fun little snacky, salty treat to add in it. So how these are made are by using square pretzels, and then you put a Hershey Kiss on them. You melt those in the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then once you take those out, you can put a M&M in the little dimple of the kiss and press it down, and they turn out so cute every time. And they add a fun, salty, sweet treat to the box. These treats are super fun to make with kids, and I even made them with my fiance, so they were a fun little treat for us to make together. They're super easy that you can make them together without any of the stress that comes with cooking. I made sure to use the holiday M&Ms to make sure it was red and green, but you can easily use any color M&M for it. Once everything was baked, I put them all into small boxes, and they were super festive, like they had some gold on them, so I thought it really tied it all together. I did my best to try to balance out all the cookies too, so that every one of them would have all the different tastes of them, but also a good blend of them all. However, I found out very quickly that I made way too many cookies, and I probably should have frozen some of the dough or just gotten bigger boxes. But I did get my boxes on December 23rd, so when I went to the store, all the Christmas boxes were sold out, and I just had to work with what I had. I think next year I'll probably either try to keep the variety but half the recipes so I have less cookies overall, or get bigger packaging for all of them so everyone can have more. Overall, though, I really like how colorful these all turned out. They were exactly what I was hoping for. So now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of my knitting projects I made. The first really big project I tackled was making 4 pairs of sailor slippers. So the sailor slippers were massive on TikTok right around fall time this year. And when I found the pattern, I knew I had to make it because it just looks so fun. And I never felted anything before. I guess accidentally in one sweater. That was a long time ago. Anyhow, I never had knit something and then felted it. And I just couldn't, it seemed magical. I couldn't believe that that's something that could happen. So I knit and felted 4 pairs of the sailor slippers for my grandparents and then my fiance's parents. At the time, I thought it would be a really quick and simple project, but each one ended up taking about 10 hours. So it was an investment, but I'm really happy with how they turned out. Picking the colors out was also a really fun part of the project because I could customize it to be more tailored to the gift recipient. So for one pair, I did the college alumna colors, and then for another, I did a sorority color. So it was really easy to tailor the pattern, and I would love to make more in the future. I could easily pick it up during evenings and work on it during TV, or I could even work. It was a super easy project to pick up after work and work on during the evenings, and I even worked on it during some car rides, such as when I drove up for Thanksgiving. So I really enjoyed the pattern. But the best part and the most interesting part, what actually drew me to the whole project, was the whole felting process. Felting is a process that basically takes wool, and when you wash knit wool, then it'll shrink and shrivel in on itself. I don't really know exactly how it works, something to do with the fiber content and all, but it's really magical. So you do have to get a certain type of wool that's not been treated. So a lot of wool is like superwash merino, so that is made not to felt, so you can wash in the washer machine. So when you get the just plain old wool, it's able to felt. It's super satisfying watching them shrink and firm up. It's probably one of the most satisfying projects I've done all year. Because they're felted, they're also super warm and sturdy, so they're perfect for a house slipper. So they also make for a really practical knit gift. And a lot of knit gifts are hard to make practical because most of the time you're probably just making a sweater. So it is nice to have a project that is more on the practical side. There's something nice about making a homemade gift that you know someone will actually put to use. Everyone I made this for absolutely loved it, which really made all the hours I put into it much more worth it. And I'm super glad that they enjoyed it. I would totally make another pair. And I selfishly want to make a pair for myself because my Tasmans are getting close to the edge of their end. The bottom is getting kind of worn out. So maybe next up on the project line is making myself a pair of these because I do have some leftover wool. I talked about the 4 slippers that I made. Let's get into the 2 big projects I made this season, the sweaters. I think that with knitting sweaters, it really shows the heart of a gift. With knitting a sweater, I think it really shows the heart that goes into homemade gifts, especially with knitting. The first sweater I made was for my sister, and the sweater I made for her was a basic striped drop shoulder sort of pattern, and I kind of just freehanded it as I went. So it's made with this cream and purplish pinkish Malabrigo wool yarn, and turned out stunning. It was nice too because the Malabrigo pinkish yarn actually had left over from another project. So I had made this one more open knit sweater, but I didn't really like how it turned out. So I ended up winding up the yarn. I wanted to have a piece of my own style infused into it. And this color is like one of my colors for my color scheme that I aim for. So I thought it would be the perfect thing to tie it into it. And I also wanted to give it a more clean girl aesthetic. That is something that she really enjoys, so I thought it was the perfect blend for her. This sweater actually free knit, so I did take some of the tips I had learned from previous patterns and applied them here. So for one, I did the double fold edge as I had learned from the Monday sweater by Petite Knit, and it really helped to give it a more fluffy texture and just it's nice to wear. I also use smaller needles on the collar and the ribbing so that it just helps it like shrink up more and it looks more professional and tailored. Another thing that saved me so much time and I highly recommend it is if you're ever making a striped sweater, learn how to weave in your ends as you go. It saved me so much time. And I don't know what it is, but once I finish a 40-hour sweater and I have to go and spend an hour or two weaving in the ends, that feels like an eternity. I never want to do that. I hate it. Making any matcher stitches or weaving in the ends is the bane of my existence. It took me about 2 weeks to knit. I'm not sure exactly how many hours I put into it, but the overall process just felt very calm and intuitive, and I'm happy with how it turned out. I'm super proud of it, and I know she loves it. The second sweater I knit was for one of my friends, and it was a sprint, one might say. I made a second Monday sweater by Petite Knit, so I'd already made this pattern once using this red yarn. However, this time I opted to use the same yarn, so the drops flora in the green color, and I held it double with the green kid silk yarn that they also sell. Since I had already made this pattern before, I kind of knew what was in store, but I did not take that into consideration when trying to map out how much time I had to make this sweater. This sweater took me about a month to make from start to finish, but there was a big hiatus in the middle where I was making the other sweater. So realistically, more about, I would say, 20 to 30 hours and maybe about 2 weeks of like active work time. But as I was getting closer to the holidays, I was starting to realize, oh, I need to finish that sweater. So I actually did a whole 12-hour knit-a-thon to try to catch up and get to a place where I was like, oh, reasonable, I can finish this in time. So be on the lookout for my knit-a-thon video. I have all the footage and I just need to put it together. I thought it would be a really fun thing to show y'all. So to get this project done in time, I pushed it to the limit. I finished it on December 23rd, meaning I only had a day to block it. So I put it on the blocking mats after I had blocked the other sweater. Still a little dry, but I put it on my dress form and it dried out quickly. And after I had finished that, I hung it to dry quicker and it did block out beautifully. I'm obsessed with how it turned out. I managed to wrap it on Christmas Eve, so I was pushing it. I had it wrapped by Christmas Eve, so getting that wrapped up was a Christmas miracle. Even though I was nervous with all the timing involved with this project, having made it before, I knew I could do it on time. And that made all the difference. I also made sure to add this little crochet chain stitch along the back because on mine I sometimes struggle with finding which one is the front and back. So I think I might try to incorporate that on a lot of my future knits just to help it when you put it on. I gave it to her recently and she absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait to continue making more sweaters. Looking back, this was a lot of work, a lot more than I realized I was getting myself into. But there's something super special about giving someone something that you made with your hands. Every stitch, every bake, every mistake, it all becomes part of the story, which makes it more special. A very good tip is that handmade gifts should not be perfect, but they should be thoughtful. And if you're ever thinking about making gifts in the future, my one piece of advice is to give yourself more time than you think you need. And also give yourself lots of grace when things don't go as you expect, because that will happen. And that is where the most beautiful things come from. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. If you enjoyed this cozy recap of all my homemade gifts from this season, please stick around and watch some more. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I hope to see you again. Bye.